What's good, everyone? Today I want to go more in depth with you in the mixing process and how I mix my beats. So I got this beat that I made last night. It sounds like this. So that's just like a nice freestyle type beat, something for someone to put vocals over. And as you can tell, it's already pretty dirty. There's a little clipping going on and clashing of frequency. So I want to show you how I mix and clean things up. So first off, I always label all of my sounds. I started out with a perk loop from Nexus, half timed it, put some effects on it, ended up with that as an audio clip. Label that perk loop. Then all my drums are labeled, 808, clap hat, opens, all that. And these are all drums that can be found in my drum kit that will be available at chambersmixedit.com/soundkits in the future. And one more thing, while I'm making the beat, I adjust the volume and the panning slightly to fit how I want it to sound, and then mixing will really finish it all up. So I double click the top bar here, which highlights all the sounds. Go to your mixer, go to the first slot, right click, route select the channel starting from this track. Now we have all of our sounds in here. I'm going to start off with the perk loop. And when I'm mixing, watch my mouse, it's up here. I look at this graph over here. See the frequencies? This can help you see what frequencies are on what sound. So as I play the perk loop, look at what frequencies are on. You can see a lot of low end here. Like here's the low end area, here's treble. So I always cut out the low end in my instrument so it doesn't clash with the 808 or the kick. So low end frequencies don't clash with low end. I want it to sound clean and clear, so I go to the parametric EQ2 and FL Studio 20. Usually I make it full screen, but that's just me. I right click on the bottom band over here, the first one, hit order, and hit steep 8. This will give you a sharp curve right here, sharp like a wall, as opposed to something lighter like the 2. That's a slope. I like to just cut the low end out, so steep 8 for me. Usually up around like 100-150 hertz. Basically up until the second band is where I cut. And now look, there's still some lower frequencies that slip through the EQ, so then I go to this EQ down here in the bottom right and pull down this band and make it steeper. Now it's much more cleaned up, but I'm not done messing around with frequencies yet. So we took care of the low end. Now I'm going to go to the high end and cut some of it. This will give it a more sampled feel, which is what I'm going for this beat. There's not much high end to begin with, but if there is any sneaking through, I'm cutting it. Then I'm going to add stereo separation to the loop, just to make it more wide. So now we're done handling frequencies. And now look at the level here. See how it's jumping around? This is where I add compression, to compress the dynamic range of the audio, because it has its highs and its lows, so I add compression for that. Go to Fruity Compressor. Usually for melodies, the highest I'll go with the ratio is 8:1. For this, I'm probably just going to do a light 2:1, meaning that every 2 dB that go into the compressor, only 1 comes out. Then the threshold, I'm going to lower to about -20. And in case you don't know what a threshold is, once the audio clip you're working with passes the threshold, that's when the compressor is activated. So if I'm at -20, watch the dB meter over here. -20 is about right here, and so once the audio passes that point, the compressor activates. The attack, I'll leave at 13-ish. The attack is how quickly or how slowly the compressor will activate once the threshold is passed. And the release is similar, except it's how quick it will release once the compressor is activated. So I'll leave that about 180. Then usually for the type, I go for a soft, so it's not slamming. Now let's look at the compressed audio levels. Now it's more at a constant level. I'm going to still pull back the threshold. But as you can tell, when we put the compressor on, we took out some of the gain. So to add this back, you call it makeup gain, which is right here. I'm going to add some back. About 3.5 dB. Now let's move on to the 808. It's a very bass heavy, strong 808. So I'm going to add an EQ. So let's observe the frequencies of the 808. I'm going to do a low pass filter and just barely cut out some of the highs here. Also, I'm going to put the 808 in mono so it hits straight forward and there's no panning going on between them. Not that there would be, but I just put it in mono anyway. And now the 808 is already pretty beefed up, but I'm still going to try this out. I'm going to put on saturation knob, which is a free plugin by Softtube. I'll leave a link in the description for you. So quick explanation about what saturation is. I'm pretty sure you know what distortion is. It's when it really like crushes the signal and gives it a distorted sound. Saturation is a lower form of distortion. So it adds more harmonic content without destroying the signal. So usually I put the saturation type on keep low because we're working with low end. Say if we were working with a clap, it'd be neutral in the mid area for clap. If it was on a hi-hat, then it would be on keep high for higher frequency. So for 808, I'm on keep low. And let's see how far I can push the knob. Usually I'll go to 2.4 on the knob, but for now I'm just going to leave it at 1 because the 808 is already pretty strong. So let's compare before and after. Here's before, and now after. It added more harmonic content and beefed it up even more. I'm also going to lower the level to compensate for the added volume. Now we move on to the kick. I'm going to add an EQ. Usually when I'm working with kicks, I'm going to add some high end because I want the beat to be crispy like that. So I'm going to grab the 6th band here around the high mid, and around 3K I'm going to add about 1.5 dB of high end. Not too wide of a band, but not too narrow. Just a good amount. And usually that's about it. Moving on to the clap, I'm going to add an EQ. When I'm working with claps, I want to bring out the best of them through manipulating frequencies. I'm going to add a steep 6 high pass filter, cut out any low end that there might be. So I'm going to take the 4th band and add about 2 dB to the mid range, about 900 hertz, and that will add more body to it. Next I'm going to add high end for a more crispy feeling. I'm just pulling up on the 7th band here, the high shelf. Next we got the hi-hat. Usually for the hi-hat I don't do much, I just let it rock, but I'm going to go to the EQ over here and cut out any low end that it might have. It's a nice stereo hat. Remember chambersbeats.com/soundkits. This drum kit will be available soon. Alright, so that's cool. Then I'm going to go to the open hi-hat. Same exact thing. I'm going to cut out any low end that there might be. And just to make it more interesting, I'm going to put a flanger on the open hi-hat. Because I like to make my mixes more interesting. Not always so bland and just EQ and all that. Add some effects sometimes. And I'm going to pull down on the mix level of the flanger. And then when we added the flanger, we made the open hi-hat more stereo. So I'm going to add more stereo to it with the stereo separation knob over here. Okay, so now I have all the effects, frequencies, and compression that I want. Now it's time to start leveling them with the faders and panning them. And a quick tip about how I arrange in the mixer. I usually start with all the instruments and melodies here. The bass and the kicks, the low end stuff, the claps, the snares, and the snaps, the open hi-hats, the closed hi-hats, and then any percussion or cymbals and crashes. Now I'm going to start leveling with the loop and the clap. And as I'm listening, I'm going to be making more adjustments to my mixing. So the open hi-hat is a little quiet. I'm going to boost that. And I'm also going to pan it to my left ear. And then when you pan it, you can make your sounds sound louder in either ear. So while it's in our left ear, it sounds a little louder because it's not on the same, what's the word? So picture this, we have a room, then we have a door on the left side of the room and a door on the right side of the room. The left side leads to another room and the right side leads to another room. Right now we have our melody, our clap, and our hi-hat in the center room. Then the open hi-hat decides to go to the left room. This is stupid, but it's separating itself from the group. It's not necessarily increasing or decreasing in volume, but what it's doing is separating itself, and our ears catching that. Our ears perceiving it as louder. So then I'm going to lower it a little bit so it's not standing out so much. See how we're able to pick up the open hi-hat much more when it's panned than when it's center because it's separating itself from the other sounds. Now I'm going to add the 808. Already too loud, so I'm going to lower it. I'm good with that. And now we're going to add the kick lastly. And always when I'm working with 808s and kicks, I always flip the polarity of the kick to see if it hits harder. It's just a trick because sometimes your kick might be hitting like not how you expect. And if you flip the polarity, it might hit harder with the 808. So let's try it. To flip the polarity, you want to hit these arrows right here. It'll turn blue. See how much of a difference that made? The kick hits way harder now with the 808. And the last thing I do is check my mix in mono, because platforms like Instagram will convert your audio into mono. And it's just a good idea to check to make sure that everything translates. So I go to my master track and I hit this knob here and I turn it to the right until it turns purple. This will make all your audio mono. So in mono, my loop is not as loud as it should be, so I'm just going to add it a little bit more volume. To put it back into stereo, I'm going to right click on the knob and hit reset. So that's how I mix my beats. And again, some points: check your mix in mono, use panning, use compression and EQing to manipulate your frequencies and dynamics, use stereo separation, saturation, and the key points are really in the leveling. You want to make sure that your frequencies and volumes are all balanced and everything can work together. You want to try to see your mixes in your head, be able to see every single sound separately in their own lane, not all flooded together, crowded. So that's the point of mixing in my mind. So thank you all for watching. I really hope you guys learned something. And one more tip: put soft clipper on your master track over fruity limiter. This will let the drums come through. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.